All right, so welcome back to the second part of shell commands course. Okay, we learned very important commands, right, in the previous lesson, and let's continue doing that. So another command you should know is uname, right? And then I can say uname minus a. This is just going to print all the sort of important information about uh, the platform that we're running on or the operating system, right? We can also take input from user. So I'm going to say read a. Notice that it's waiting, and I can say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then now if I say echo $a, notice the value is printed. Okay, now let's quickly create a shell script that combines some of the shell commands that we have already learned. Let's use editor, um, for that, and let's go ahead and so I'm going to go ahead and open the editor. I'm still in the shell command. So I'm going to make everything available to you somewhere in the course here. Okay, all the things that files that have gotten created. Okay, so let's go ahead and maybe create like a test.sh file. So I'm going to go and say test.sh. Okay, and with that we're going to learn a little bit more as well. Okay, so let's see. So what I'm going to do now is say echo. So echo the shell script is running. Okay, something like this. Very simple single command, right? So, and I'm going to say yes, it is running. Or great, something like this. So notice that we combined like two commands here. Okay, go back to the terminal. We could also execute it here, right? So let's try to do that. So now if I did ls minus l, notice that we have test.sh, right? Now the way to run it is like test.sh. Now notice that we get an error, right? Because here are the permissions, right? So what this says, it's that the owner of this file has read and write permissions, the group and everybody else only have read permissions, right? So let's give it the execute permissions. And then for that command is chmod, change mode, right? Plus X, which is we are giving execute permission to everyone, test.sh. So now if we did ls minus L, notice that everybody gets an execute permission, and we can notice that it's green also. So now what we can do is we can say, okay, test.sh. Now notice the shell script is running great. Okay, so we combine two commands, we ran the script. Okay, so now let's go ahead and maybe, so where is this really needed? Like if you want to run like loops and conditional statements and things like that, very, very useful to have them in a sort of a script. So I'm going to go ahead and paste some code here. So this is for I in 1 to 20. Again, we have learned loop multiple times, like it's there in here as well. So basically it's we want it to run for like 20 times and then print this value, right? Again, $I signifies that we are interested in the value of the variable, right? So let's go back and let's run this again. So notice that now it prints everything, right? So that's that, right? Okay, so we could also, by the way, so let's say it's clear. Another way to run it is like shell uh, test.sh, right? Same thing. Now let's do something interesting. We can add like a sleep of 1 second to see the loop in action, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and change this and make this to, let's say, 1 to maybe 5, and then after echo we're gonna say sleep for 1 second. I think it should be second, but let's check that. So I'm gonna say clear, again run it. So now notice it says 1, waits for a second, 2, 3, 4, 5. So another command that we learned was sleep. Okay, excellent. Now again, as before, we could also take the input from user. Okay, so let's basically do that. Okay, so there are a couple of ways to take input. We already saw the read command, right, where we took input from the user, but there is a way to actually send input to the script also. Okay, So let's go ahead and change the script for that. And then in the process, we'll end up learning another concept of conditional execution or if, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to say if, and I'm going to say if $1 is equal to uh, y, right? Then, and just, it's not required, but it's better to indent things, right? It looks better and then it's easy to debug if we have any issues. So notice what we are saying here. If the $1 is yes, so what is $1? It's basically the first argument to the script. So let's see it in action. Okay, so I'm going to say test.sh and I'm going to say no, right? So notice we got actually an error here. Let's see what's the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and add a space here. I think that was the issue. Let's see if that's not the issue. It probably is the issue, but let's run it again. Okay, so notice the shell script is running. It says great, but it doesn't print anything because we said it's, so always remember the $0 is basically the name of the script, right? So in fact, what we can do, since we know, so the script, and I'm going to say $0 is running. Save this, and notice it says the shell script, this script is running, and great, but it still doesn't print the values printed by the loop. So let's go ahead and this time say yes. So now notice with this y, it got evaluated to yes, right? And we can actually say this like input is $1. Okay, and let's run this. So notice it says shell script is running and the input is yes, and then that's it. All right, so now another pattern that I want you to know is running something in background, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to say no hub, which is don't hang up, run this file, right? And run it in background with uh, ampersand, right? So I'm going to go ahead. Notice that it says ignoring the input, appending the output to no hub out, right? So let's see what happened here, okay? So if I cat no hub.out, notice it printed the shell script is running, the input is nothing because we didn't give it an input, right? And it says great, done. So let's see how interesting is that, right? So I'm going to say again run it with, let's say y, okay? And now if we say cat no hub.output, notice that with this y it actually printed everything. Notice it's just appending the output, right? Now this is where very interesting, your tail command can be quite useful. Okay, so let's do something interesting, right? For running processes. So let's run this for some like 10 or 20 seconds. Let's, because it's gonna sleep for 1 second every time. Let's come back, clear this, and let's run our previous command, right? So notice that now it is running, right? And I can do whatever else I want. So my command is running in the background, right? But let's say I want to know what's going on. So what I can do is I can say tail minus f, which is follow, and no hub output, right? So notice now, notice I can see the output, right? Here. And you can always use Control C to get out of it, right? So Control C, right? So basically if we ran something in background, so for example, again, let's do that, right? Mm, right, so let's run this. So the point of this is while that command runs, right, this is the process ID of the command, we can run any other command that we want, right? Whatever, right? It could be anything like echo uh, another command, right? Because otherwise, right, something like this, right? Now, otherwise what happens if we actually don't run it with no hub and this ampersand, we have to wait for the command to finish. So notice that, let's say now we run this without the no hub, the standard way, right? So notice now it is hogging the terminal and really we cannot do anything, right? We just wait, okay? So very important pattern. where we can run things in background and then also do other things, right? All right, so we have learned a lot. Okay, this another thing maybe I wanna do is maybe what we can do is, okay, let's keep it a little simple and let's say 5, right? Something like this. And let's run it and say, okay, um, and let's redirect the output to like slash tmp slash temp dot txt or log, something like that, right? So now notice we are stuck in a way because this command is not running in background. Uh, Now it has finished. Okay, and if we cat this file, there we go, right? That has all the output, right? Quite interesting, but that no hump pattern is kind of more important. All right. Now, have we learned everything that is there to know about shell commands and scripts? Not at all. No way. Okay. This is not even barely scraping the surface of um, what all you could do, right? But this is enough for now. And later, when we come across new shell commands or scripts throughout our courses here, right? I'll explain that if we have not already covered it. But definitely, you should know at least these basics, all right? So you've already elevated yourself, knowing good chunk of commands, right? Just count, maybe we have learned like 20 to 30, probably more, right? All right, so let's keep going. Let's meet in the next one. This completes the course, by the way, which is this course, right? And yeah, thank you very much. And let's meet in the next one. Bye.